Hello everyone and welcome back to our modelled writing videos. If you've been with us before, then you'll know how we will structure today's video, but if you're new here, welcome, and I hope you find today helpful. We are looking at two task 1 questions. So task 1 is when you'll be given a piece of data and it's your job to report back on that data, pick the main features, make comparisons where they're relevant, and produce quite a short essay that's a minimum of 150 words. So not a particularly long essay. So for that reason, we want to make sure that we're structuring it in a suitable way so that we're not wasting time and we're making sure that we're answering the question properly. So I'll be showing you how to do that today. We'll go through a plan together and then we'll do the write-up as if we were in the exam itself. So hopefully this is great preparation for you at home if you're following along with this, and we'll get stuck in to the first task of the day, which is going to look at bar charts. So bar charts are probably the most popular type of chart to occur. They can come up on their own. In this case, from the S, we know that there's more than one. There can be two, there could be more than two maybe. They can also come up in multiple charts. So you might get a bar chart, a pie chart, a line graph all together, for example. So definitely something to be aware of and to be confident in. So we have two today. So if that's something that you're struggling with, then this is the video for you. Okay, the question. The graphs below show the number of medals won by the top 5 countries in the Summer and Winter Olympics. Summarise the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so like we were saying before, we're being told how to answer the question. We want to select and report the main features and make comparisons where it's relevant. So not all the time, but just when it's particularly important or striking or adds to what you are saying. All right, so I'll show you how we can make sure that we're hitting all of these points with our structure. So the general idea of what we're looking at, number of medals won by the top 5 countries, both in Summer and Winter Olympics. Okay, let's have a look at the data. Here we are. So we've got the Winter Olympics at the top here. So we've actually got a key, and this is showing the gold, silver and bronze medals. So this is an interesting type of bar charts. Well, firstly, it's in the other way. So usually it's vertical. This is a horizontal bar chart. So we've got on the y-axis, we've got the countries. And are they the same in each? No, they differ actually. Okay. And then we've got the different medals. So how we approach this is that the gold, where that point is how many golds, and then silver is this point and bronze is this point. So it might look a bit intimidating at the start, but actually they're just combining 3 different figures on one line, if that makes sense. So it's a nice way to condense the information. Okay then, and then down here we've got the Summer Olympics. Now they haven't done the same as Winter. We don't know how many gold, silver or bronze individually in those different categories. We just know the total. So gold, silver and bronze all together. Right, so we've got on both bar charts, we've got the number of medals on the x-axis going along here, and on the y-axis we've got the countries. Lovely. So then, let's think about our plan. Now, plan is so important to make sure that we stay on track, that we stay on focused, that we're not saying anything irrelevant or besides the point. So a really important step in the task 1 and task 2. Okay, so we want to logically put together 2 different groups, group 1 and group 2. Now you could do this in a variety of ways. If the countries were the same for both, I would say, oh, maybe we could group together the countries. If there's, say there was just one bar chart, we could group together, talk about, yes, either the countries or the amount of medals, or maybe gold and silver and bronze. We could use those for groups. In this situation, as there are 2 bar charts and they're different, they've got different values, I think to make our lives as simple as possible, we want to just talk about the Winter Olympics and the summer in 2 different groups, and then we'll make comparisons where relevant, but essentially they are quite different pieces of information, so we'll give them their own group. And also we're going to jot down our overview. Now, an overview is when we want to make a sweeping statement to summarize generally what's happening. We're not being specific here. So we want to draw upon, it's quite nice in an overview if there's more than one piece of information. It's nice to draw upon both of them. So what's something that we can talk about for both graphs? Well, the United States has the most medals we're not sure about the year actually, of all time actually. So they have the most of all time for the Summer Olympics and the second most for the Winter Olympics. So maybe that could be our overview. So the United States holds the highest amount of medals in the Summer Olympics of all time, and a capital O for the proper noun there, the name of Olympics, and also the second highest for amount in the Winter Olympics. So these are just our notes. We don't have to make sort of full sentences here, but just enough so that you can refer back to it. Let's do that. Okay. Right, so we've got our 2 groups and we've got our overview. So what is next? Well, I think we can go to the write-up. Here we go. So we've got our question here, and we've got some nice words that we can use. We've got some verbs to talk about trends like decreasing, stay the same, increasing. And when we combine them with different adverbs to talk about how something is happening, so how did it increase, how did it decrease, these make for really nice descriptive reportings of what's happening. So really useful. You won't have this in the exam, unfortunately, but you'll be able to, for today, we can use that. And of course, we've got our data, which we'll be using in the main body. Okay, so where do we start? Well, we need to paraphrase this sentence here. The graphs below show the number of medals won by the top 5 countries in the Summer and Winter Olympics. Okay, we don't need to paraphrase every single word. We just want to paraphrase as much as we can to show the examiner that this is a skill that we have, but we want to still keep the meaning. So let's be more specific. We could say the bar charts displayed provide information on the amount of maybe medals, the amount of winnings by the highest 5 nations in the, again, summer and winter. It's hard to paraphrase, so I think we'll keep those in. Summer and Winter Olympics. The bar charts displayed provide information on the amount of winnings by the highest 5 nations in the Summer and Winter Olympics. Okay, so that's our first paragraph, our paraphrasing. Now we want to go into our overview, and we want to start it with a nice phrase like in general, on the whole, at first glance. Anything you like to suggest that this is just a first view. So in general, the United States, capitals again, holds the largest number of medals maybe of all time in the Summer Olympics, maybe whilst also ranking second maybe behind Norway in the Winter Olympics. In general, the United States holds the largest number of medals of all time in the Summer Olympics, whilst also ranking second behind Norway in the Winter Olympics. We don't know if there was, for example, a date on this, I don't know, from 2020, then we would use the past tense. But in this case, we don't have a date. So we're sort of using present tense here. What does the question say? Let's just check that. Medals won by in the Summer and Winter Olympics. Okay. Right, so now we want to go into our 2 main bodies, and this is 2 groups, and this is when we'll draw information from the bar charts themselves. Okay, so let's start with the Winter Olympics, and we just want to pick the main features of this, really. So maybe we could start with Norway. And again, there's a lot to talk about here, so we just want to pick a few parts, really. So when examining the Winter Olympics, Norway is the has the highest amount of medals of all time now let's pick the number. So we have the different lines here are increments of 50. So 350, maybe 360, 370, 65 maybe, or 370, 80, maybe 370. At 370. Okay, so we can also maybe talk about that they have the highest amount of of gold medals as well at 100 and 120, 30. Or 130. We also have the largest, the most bronze medals at approximately 130. Okay, so that's Norway. Now we want to pick up on a few features from the other countries. Maybe we could mention the United States and then Germany. So let's talk about following Norway. Norway's total medals is the US. We can shorten that as the US at just over 300. Just over 300. And then there's quite a difference in numbers here. So then it goes to just over 300 to 240. So there is quite a significant drop. For third place, which is taken by Germany at or we could say, actually, a nice way to report back is instead of just stating the numbers, we can state the difference. Just over 300. There is quite a significant drop for third place. Germany which is held taken by Germany. And then we could say, 50, 60, over 60 less than America. Or maybe roughly 60 less than America. Okay, so let's talk about maybe Russia and Canada having similar numbers, but Russia, in fact, have slightly more gold medals. Russia and Canada have similar totals. Let's go for 190 and then 190 for Russia and just shy of 200 respectively. And then although Russia has more gold medals, Russia won more gold. And then let's use a nice bracket at 50, 60, maybe 70, 75. It looks like it's right in the middle there, 75. Okay, let's read this back and see how we're doing. When examining the Winter Olympics, Norway has the highest amount of medals of all time at 370. They also have the most bronze medals at approximately 130. Following Norway's total medals is the US at just over 300. There is quite a significant drop for third place, which is taken by Germany, roughly 60 less than America. Russia and Canada have similar totals, 190 and just shy of 200 respectively, although Russia won more gold medals, 75. Right, so we've just mentioned sort of the important parts. I mean, there's lots to talk about in this bar chart, but we've just picked, so the skill here is to pick the relevant, important pieces of information. Okay then, so now we're going to go into the Summer Olympics, and we want to highlight the difference that, this time the United States is number one. So unlike the winter competition, the Summer Olympics is where the States is number one. Is number one. With a total of 2,500 medals. Wow, okay. 2,500 medals. So we're comparing between the two, and we're still drawing pieces of information here. So let's talk about Russia coming in second. Russia also performed better in this season with 1,500. So we've got increments of 500. So 500, 600, 700, maybe 800, 1,000, 1,800. Okay, and we don't always just want to state numbers. That's a little bit formulaic, so we can find different ways of talking about information. Maybe we can talk about Great Britain and France as they're much lower. So Germany is not far behind Russia. Third place in both. Or maybe we could say Germany is third place in both Olympics. And we have, so if Russia's at 1,800, then we could talk about Germany being 6, 7. Oh, is that 8? Is that 1,006? 1,800, 5, 6, 7, or maybe 6. This is about double this, so maybe 700, 800, 900. Maybe they're more at 1,750. I think 1,800 for this one. So 5,600. Maybe 1,650. Roughly 1,650. Or we've used this one, we don't want to repeat ourselves too much, so around 1,650 total medals. Okay, let's just briefly mention Great Britain and France. There's a dramatic drop in winnings for the last two countries. And we could talk about France coming in 5th. France came in 5th at 500, 600, 700. Okay, let's read this back. Unlike the winter competition, the Summer Olympics is where the States is number one, with a total of 2,500 medals. Russia also performed better in this season, with 1,800. Germany is third place in both Olympics, around 1,650 total medals. Really important to go back and check our work. There is a dramatic drop in winnings for the last two countries. France came in 5th at 700. Okay, I think that's good. We've reported, we've made comparisons. Let's now check the words for this one. Okay, so this comes to 188 words, so just over the 150 there, and quite a reachable number, I think, for this essay. So hopefully that's been helpful for you at home if you've been following along, and that's how I would approach this question. So we've got the two groups. We've got our introduction, of course, paraphrasing, and our overview. Okay, so now let's dive into another bar chart, this time just one bar chart. So if that sounds useful for you, then stick around and I'll show you how to approach just the one now. The chart below gives information about global population percentages and distribution of wealth by region. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, so we've got the same task as always. In task 1, we need to select, report the main features and make comparisons where they are relevant. This time it is about global population percentage and distribution of wealth by region. Okay, let's have a look at the data. Here we go. So we have on the x-axis, we have regions: North America, Latin America and Caribbean, Europe, Africa, China, India, rich Asia Pacific, other Asia Pacific. We've got two types of pieces of data. We've got population share in the orange, and then we've got wealth share in the yellow. And these are the percentages here. Okay, so let's think about our groupings for this one. Now, we could go down different routes. We could think about do one for the population share and one for the wealth share, maybe. We could talk about percentages, or I think for this one, I might break them up into two groups depending on which is higher, wealth share or population share. So 3 areas jump out to me for the highest wealth share. We've got North America, we've got, this is the yellow bar, Europe, and rich Asia Pacific. So I might talk about those in my first grouping: North America, Europe, and rich Asia, Pacific. Okay, and group 2 then, we've got the other ones. So Latin America and Caribbean. Caribbean. And then we've got Africa, China, India, and Asia Pacific, other Asia Pacific. Okay, so I'm going to split it up like that. Now, of course, there's 3 nations for group 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's not balanced. Of course, there's not the same amount in both, but that's okay. I think it's still, I'm going to show you that we can still group them together. That's no problem. Okay, so our overview then. What is striking about this? Well, North America has the biggest difference between population share and wealth share. So North America has the biggest, most striking difference between population share and wealth share. Okay, we've gone out of the box there. That's okay. We'll move this up here. So you can see that this is how we've grouped them today. And we're going to talk about putting it all together now into the essay itself. Here we go. So just like last time, we've got our question, we've got some useful words, and we've got the bar chart here, of course, as well. Let's just move that there. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start, as always, by paraphrasing this sentence here. The chart below gives information about global population percentages and distribution of wealth by region. Okay. We can be more specific. The bar chart provided gives information, shows data regarding worldwide population. It's difficult to paraphrase that. Figures in percentages. And also maybe financial and also how successful financially each area is, how wealthy, well, actually the distribution of wealth, and also how finances are shared in each area. Let's read this back. The bar chart provided shows data regarding worldwide population figures in percentages and also how finances are shared in each area. That's talking about the distribution of wealth by region. Okay, so let's now go into our overview. And we can start this by saying maybe at first glance, North America, so we're being very general here, North America has again, we don't have a year actually, we don't know when this is taken, but that's okay, has the biggest difference between population share and maybe population and wealth share. Okay, so that's our overview. At first glance, North America has the biggest difference between population and wealth share. Right, so let's go into our first group, which is going to talk about the biggest countries the countries in which the wealth share is higher than the population share. So let's start by saying there are 3 countries, or not quite countries, there are 3 zones in which wealth share is accounts for a higher percentage than population share. Okay, so let's talk about North America because this is the biggest. We've noted that already in our overview. It's the most striking one. So we can say the most striking of all is North America. North America, where population distribution is at 30. Oh, we've got increments of 5 here. Maybe, is it nearly 35%? Whilst, oh, sorry, no, wealth share, where money wealth distribution, let's do share. Wealth share is at nearly 35%, whilst the population number is maybe 6%. Okay, so that's the first one. Then it's followed by Europe. The next highest spread of, or highest distribution of wealth is seen in Europe. Just under 30%. And whilst the population is 15%, so we can say maybe just under 30%, whereas the population is half this figure. Okay, that's quite nice. And then rich Asia Pacific, let's talk about maybe we could talk about the difference. So rich Asia Pacific, we've got wealth is nearly 25%, maybe 24%, and then we've got 5% for the population share. So the last region following this trend is rich Asia Pacific. We could say the wealth is 1% lower than, 1% lower than a quarter, 25%, another way of saying 25%. And the population stands at 5%. Okay, let's read this back and see how we're doing. There are 3 zones in which wealth share accounts for a higher percentage than population share. The most striking of all is North America, where wealth share is at nearly 35%, whilst the population number is 6%. The next highest distribution of wealth is seen in Europe, just under 30%, whereas the population is half this figure. The last region following this trend is rich Asia Pacific. The wealth is 1% lower than a quarter, and the population stands at 5%. Okay, so that's our first grouping. Now we're going to compare this with regions and countries which have a higher population than wealth. So the other groups follow a pattern of having a higher population number than wealth distribution. Okay, so we're just setting this up and we're already comparing between the two. So we don't want to state every single figure, we just want to pick the main ones. Let's talk about maybe China being the most significant here. China is China's, have we used striking? Yes. China's numbers are significantly China's population is significantly higher And we have 21, 22, 23, oh, maybe 22 and a half. At 22.5%, compared with, maybe around 20% higher, which is around 20% higher than wealth share. Okay, so that's China. We can't talk about all of them, but maybe we could talk about. We could group together, actually, in fact, India and other Asia Pacific because they have a very similar population and a very similar wealth share. India and other Asia Pacific have a very similar share of people. Let's start with India. Just over 15, 16, 17, and 17. Just over 15% and 17% respectively. I like using that word. Okay, so we've talked about those two regions. Then we have Africa and Latin America and Caribbean. So we can state maybe that Africa has maybe just over 1% of wealth share. Notably, Africa has just over 1% of wealth share. And 1/10 of population distribution, so 10%. Oh, just editing our work, always there. And then let's finish with Latin America and Caribbean, which have both figures are a bit more similar, even though population is still higher. So even though population figures are still higher in Latin America and Caribbean. Let's do a nice bracket. 5, 6, 7, 8% for this one. 8%. The difference between wealth is less dramatic, and wealth is 4%. Okay, let's read this paragraph back and see how we're doing. The other groups follow a pattern of having a higher population number than wealth distribution. China's population is significantly higher at 22.5%, which is around 20% higher than their wealth share, let's say, their wealth share. India and other Asia Pacific have a very similar share of people, just over 15% and 17% respectively. Notably, Africa has just over 1% of wealth share and 1/10 of population distribution. Even though population figures are still higher in Latin America and Caribbean, the difference between wealth is less dramatic, 4%. Okay, I think that's good. Let's count the words and see how we've done for this one. So this brings our total to 199 words. So just short of 200 words there, but that's okay. We've hit the minimum, which is the most important thing. And you can see the two different groups that I've done for this one. So interesting to hear what you've been doing at home. Did you follow the same groups? Would you have picked the same examples there from the data? So do let us know how you found both tasks today. We love to hear from you, and I hope that's been helpful. We had lots of bar charts today, so if that's something that you wanted to practice, then this was the video for you. But we have plenty of other videos of all different types of task 1s and task 2s, so make sure to check them out. and we'll see you in the next video.